Come closer. The shadows have missed you, and tonight they have a new story to tell. Welcome to Scary Stories After Dark. Skeleton Rest, 1993. The street glowed with jack-o'-lantern grins, their candles flickering against the October wind. The night was almost over, most porch lights switched off, most children tucked into bed with pillowcases full of candy. But on the edge of Maple Bend Lane, one light still burned. 17-year-old Mason Hale lounged on his front porch steps, tossing a fun-sized Snickers into the air and catching it with his teeth. His parents were long asleep. He'd stayed out late at a party, his head still buzzing with cheap beer and smoke. The candy bowl by the door sat empty. He'd eaten half of it himself. The knock came at 12:03 a.m. 3 slow raps, hollow, wooden. Mason chuckled. "Trick or treat's over, kid. Go home." He didn't even get up. Another knock, louder. And this time, under it, a sound like candy wrappers crumpling in restless hands. He frowned. Creepy little bastard. With a groan, he yanked the door open and froze. A figure stood there, small, draped in a dingy white sheet with holes cut for eyes. Smudged black makeup ringed the edges of its face, like a child had tried and failed to look scary. But the longer Mason stared, the more wrong it felt. The thing didn't move, didn't breathe. Its eyes, too large, too black, stared into his soul with a depth that hollowed him out. It held up a battered orange candy bag. Silent, waiting. Mason smirked, lifting his empty hands. "Yeah, sorry, I'm fresh out. Try next year." He shut the door with a laugh. The candy wrapper sound followed him inside, louder now, everywhere at once. He spun around. The hallway was empty, except for a trail of candy corn leading toward his bedroom. When Mason's parents awoke the next morning, their son was gone. In his bed lay only his clothes, crumpled candy wrappers stuffed inside them, and a mask of frozen terror where his face should have been. And outside, on the porch, the candy bowl was full again, overflowing with sweets that smelled faintly of rot. Skeleton Rest was a town that lived for Halloween. Every porch was lined with carved pumpkins, every tree strung with orange lights, every shop window painted with ghosts and skeletons. By October 31st, it felt less like celebration and more like obsession, as if the town itself couldn't survive without its one night of masks and shadows. Out on Elmbridge Street, 4 friends moved in a loose pack, pillowcases slung heavy with candy. Bertie Rowan led the way, her combat boots thudding against the cracked sidewalk. Black lipstick smudged where she'd been chewing on a Twizzler. She wore a thrift store witch hat tilted low over her eyes, her sarcasm as sharp as the wind. Beside her strode Alma Torres, her face painted in skeletal white with dark hollow eyes. She adjusted her denim jacket against the cold, the steady one, the heart of the group, always watching, always worried they go one step too far. A few feet back, Noah Granger was swinging his pillowcase like a weapon, candy rattling inside. His plastic vampire fangs clicked every time he grinned, and he loved testing how far he could push Birdie's patience with his dares. Quietly, on the edge of the pack, walked Jaden Cross. He wasn't in a costume, not really, just a torn flannel and a cheap mask hanging loose from his neck. He had a way of seeing what others missed, though he rarely spoke it aloud. Birdie stopped under a street lamp, her hat shadowing her face. "All right, legends," she drawled, holding up a fun-sized Milky Way like a trophy. "Best haul yet, and the night's still young." "Correction," Noah grinned, baring his fangs. "The night's getting late, which means—" He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Trick-or-treater hour." Alma groaned. "Don't start. That's not funny." Jaden glanced at the dark street stretching ahead, the wind pushing wrappers across the pavement. His voice was low, almost lost. "They say he comes after midnight." The group fell into uneasy silence, the glow of jack-o'-lanterns flickering around them. And somewhere down the block, faintly, came the sound of candy wrappers crumpling. The night deepened as Birdie, Alma, Noah, and Jaden wandered farther from the heart of Skeleton Rest. Houses grew sparse, the decorations thinner, but the wind seemed to carry more voices here, rumors tangled with the rustle of leaves. They ducked into Rudy's Corner Mart, a little convenience store glowing fluorescent against the dark. Birdie wanted a soda. Noah wanted to brag about their candy haul. But the clerk behind the counter, a wiry man with deep lines etched into his face, barely looked at their costumes. His eyes darted to the clock on the wall. 11:42 p.m. "You kids best be heading home," he muttered, sliding Alma's Coke across the counter. "Ain't wise to be out much longer." Birdie smirked. "Because of the boogeyman?" The man's gaze snapped to her, sharp enough to cut. "Because of him." He jerked his chin toward the darkened window, where the reflection of the candy racks glowed like crooked teeth. "The trick-or-treater. Don't be opening doors if you hear him knock." Alma stiffened. Jaden lowered his eyes, silent. Noah snorted, tossing a pack of gum onto the counter. Urban legend, ghost stories. But as they left, a group of younger kids rushed past, daring each other with nervous laughter. "Bet you won't walk down Maple Bend." "Bet you won't give him candy." "You can't even look him in the eyes or he'll take your soul." The teens watched the kids vanish into the dark, their voices echoing. Birdie shook her head, rolling her eyes. Skeleton Rest and its bedtime stories. Unreal. But Jaden glanced over his shoulder one more time, his stomach sinking at the faint sound that carried on the wind. The crumple of candy wrappers. The streets of Skeleton Rest thinned as midnight crept closer. Porch lights blinked off one by one, leaving only the glow of jack-o'-lanterns flickering on porches. The wind pushed candy wrappers across the asphalt, their rustling sharp in the stillness. Birdie tossed an empty soda can into a gutter, her laugh echoing. "Spookiest part of town is how dead it is." "Not dead enough," Noah teased, snapping his vampire fangs in her direction. Alma hugged her jacket tighter, her painted skeleton face pale in the shadows. "Seriously, maybe we should head back. It's almost 12. Jaden slowed, his eyes narrowing at the stretch of dark street ahead. Wait. They stopped. At the far end of the block, under a dying street lamp, a figure stood. Small, still, draped in a dingy sheet with hollow eye holes cut out. The trick-or-treater. He didn't move. He didn't wave. He just stared, holding out that battered orange bag as if the distance between them didn't exist. Bertie's laugh faltered. That's just some kid. Too late for kids, Alma whispered. The street lamp above the figure flickered once, twice, and went dark. When it flared back to life, the figure was gone. The only sound was the faint, unmistakable crumpling of candy wrappers drifting toward them on the wind. The four of them stood frozen, staring down the street where the trick-or-treater had been. The silence stretched too long, thick and heavy, until Bertie forced a laugh. Okay, creepy as hell, but seriously, it's just some middle schooler screwing with us. She tugged the brim of her witch hat lower, pretending not to care. Noah puffed out his chest. Yeah, and if he pops up again, I'll give him something to stare at. He swung his pillowcase of candy like a weapon, grinning through his plastic fangs. Nobody out-creeps me. Alma didn't smile. Her painted skeleton face looked even paler under the streetlight. It wasn't a kid. Did you see how still he was, and his eyes? Jaden cut in softly, eyes still scanning the dark. He wanted something. That made them all pause. The night air shifted, colder now, and the faint scrape of wrappers along the asphalt seemed to crawl closer. Alma shivered. Bertie shoved Noah's arm to break the tension. Relax, you bunch of babies. Urban legend, remember. Skeleton Rest wouldn't survive without its bedtime boogeymen. She pulled out another Twizzler and bit down hard, though her hand wasn't steady. Noah cackled, playing along. Next thing you'll say, Bloody Mary's hanging out at Rudy's Corner Mart. Alma muttered, I'd rather take Bloody Mary. Jaden stayed quiet, his gaze fixed on the shadows at the end of the block. But when Bertie snapped her fingers in front of him, he blinked, shoved his mask back over his face, and forced a smirk. Fine, he said. Let's keep moving, but don't say I didn't warn you. They moved on, laughter thin and brittle, their voices bouncing too loudly against the silent houses. But under it all, the sound returned, soft, deliberate, unmistakable. Candy wrappers. They turned down Maple Bend, their voices louder than they needed to be, laughter forced. The houses here were darker, porches unlit, decorations left to sag in the wind. Alma hugged her jacket tight. This street's dead. Let's just... She stopped. So did the others. On the porch of the house across from them, the figure stood, sheet draped over its frame, hollow black eye holes cut too wide, too deep. It didn't knock, didn't move, just waited, bag outstretched. Bertie's candy slipped from her fingers, hitting the pavement with a soft thud. Noah barked a laugh, though it cracked in the middle. Guy's fast, I'll give him that. Probably some high schooler pulling a prank. He cupped his hands and shouted, Nice costume, real original. The figure didn't react, not a twitch. Jaden's voice was barely audible. "Don't look in his eyes." Alma grabbed Birdie's arm. "Let's go. Now." They hurried past, the crunch of their footsteps too loud, their shadows stretching long. Birdie tried not to glance back, but she couldn't help it. The porch was empty. But at the corner, where the street bent into darkness, the figure waited again, closer this time, bag swaying gently in the wind. The sound of wrappers crumpling chased them down the block. The street narrowed where Maple Bend twisted, the sidewalk crowding against rusted chain-link fences. There was no way around, no alleys, no shortcuts. And there he was. The trick-or-treater stood dead center of the sidewalk, sheet rippling faintly in the cold wind, bag dangling from his pale fingers. The hollow eye holes gaped like pits, fixed straight on them. The 4 teens froze. Birdie swallowed, forcing out words that sounded braver than she felt. "It's fine. We just walk past him, like he's not even there." Alma shook her head violently. "Are you out of your mind?" Noah smirked, though his knuckles were white around his pillowcase of candy. "He wants candy, right? Here." He dug out a Snickers bar and lobbed it toward the figure. The wrapper crinkled against the pavement. The trick-or-treater didn't move, didn't bend, didn't even glance at the candy lying at his feet. Instead, the bag lifted higher. Jaden whispered, "He doesn't want candy. He wants us." The words sent a chill through all of them. They edged forward, steps slow, each breath loud in their ears. The figure loomed closer, towering now, though his size seemed to shift with the shadows. When they were close enough to brush past, Birdie caught a whiff of something sweet and rotten, like spoiled candy left too long in the heat. For a heartbeat, the trick-or-treater turned his head toward her. The hollow eye holes aligned with hers. Her knees nearly buckled. Then Alma yanked her arm, dragging her past, and they all broke into a run. Their footsteps thundered against the pavement, their laughter gone now, swallowed by panic. Behind them, the faint sound rose again. Wrappers, endless wrappers. They ran until their lungs burned, until Birdie's witch hat nearly flew off, until Noah cursed and doubled over, hands on his knees. The street was empty, their breath pluming in the cold night air. "See?" Birdie panted. "Gone. Just some creep." Jaden's voice cut her off, sharper than she'd ever heard it. "Don't." They turned. At the mouth of the alley behind them, the trick-or-treater stood. Still, silent, bag lifted. Alma grabbed Birdie's hand. No, he was behind us then." They bolted down another street, porch lights flickering as they passed. Birdie dared a glance over her shoulder. Empty. But when they skidded around the next corner, there he was again, standing under a sagging scarecrow tied to a lamppost. Bag swaying gently. Watching. Noah shouted, his bravado snapping. "What do you want?" His voice cracked against the silence. The figure tilted its head, slow as a broken hinge. The bag crumpled inward as if something inside it was shifting, writhing. Alma screamed and they tore down the block. But with every turn, every desperate sprint, the trick-or-treater was there first, on a porch, in the street, under a lamp. The town itself seemed to bend around him, forcing them closer, hurting them. Until finally, they stumbled into a cul-de-sac, no way out, no alleys, no side streets. And at the center, waiting, was the trick-or-treater. Bag wide open like a gaping mouth, wrappers spilling from its edges, the sound louder than ever. Candy wrappers, endless, endless candy wrappers. The cul-de-sac lay silent, every house dark, their jack-o'-lanterns long since snuffed out. The only light came from the weak glow of a single street lamp, and under it, he waited. The trick-or-treater stood motionless at the center, his bag held wide, gaping like a hungry mouth. From its depths came the sound of wrappers tearing, twisting, crunching, as if something inside was devouring endlessly. The 4 teens froze at the edge of the circle. Birdie's voice broke first, thin and sharp. "No, no way, this isn't real." Alma clutched her sleeve. Don't look in his eyes." Jaden's breath shuddered. "We can't run. He'll just be there first." Noah, trembling now, swung his pillowcase like a weapon. "Then we fight. Screw him." He hurled the sack of candy straight at the figure. It hit with a dull thud and vanished into the bag. The trick-or-treater's arm jerked once, then lifted higher, the bag yawning wider, wrappers spilling onto the asphalt like a flood of rotten candy. The smell was sweet and putrid, cloying in their throats. And then he stepped forward. One slow, deliberate step. The ground beneath them seemed to hum with the sound of tearing wrappers, rattling louder, closer, as though the entire town was crumpling around them. Birdie screamed, clutching Alma's hand. Noah backed up until his shoulders hit the fence. Jaden whispered, almost reverent, "He's not asking for candy anymore." The trick-or-treater raised his bag higher still, black hollows for eyes locked on them. The bag stretched unnaturally wide, fabric splitting, the inside nothing but endless dark. And the wrappers whispered over and over, like a chant carried by the wind, "Give him more." The trick-or-treater took another step forward. The bag yawned open, darkness spilling from its seams, wrappers skittering across the pavement like cockroaches. The stench of rot and sugar thickened until it choked them. Birdie stumbled back, pulling Alma with her. Noah shouted, swinging at the air, his voice breaking, "Stay back! Stay the hell back!" But the figure didn't falter. The bag tilted toward them, and the wrappers surged like a tide. Jaden gasped as something cold and sticky wrapped around his ankle. He looked down. A string of candy wrappers had knotted together, winding up his leg, pulling. "Help!" he screamed, clawing at the asphalt. The wrappers tightened, dragging him across the pavement toward that endless black mouth. Alma lunged, grabbing his arm, but the pull nearly wrenched her shoulder from its socket. Birdie dropped to her knees, shrieking his name, clutching his other arm as the wrappers scraped his skin raw. The trick-or-treater tilted his head, hollow eyes fixed, bag yawning wider. Jaden's foot crossed the edge. The wrappers writhed higher, up to his chest, his throat. His scream cracked, muffled by the sound of endless crumpling. Noah roared, tearing free of his shock, and swung his pillowcase like a club, slamming it into the figure's head. For a split second, the trick-or-treater staggered, and the wrappers loosened just enough. Jaden tumbled back into Alma's arms, gasping, sobbing, his skin streaked with sticky candy residue that burned like acid. The bag snapped shut with a sound like a bone breaking. Silence. Then softly, as if whispered by every empty porch in skeleton rest. Knock, knock, knock. The cul-de-sac was silent, every shadow holding its breath. The trick-or-treater hadn't moved since the bag snapped shut. He simply stood, sheet swaying faintly in the wind, as if daring them to try again. Birdie's voice cracked. We have to get out of here." Alma pulled Jaden against her, his chest still heaving, skin blotched red where the wrappers had burned him. "Which way?" Noah pointed to the far side. "That fence. Climb it, now." They bolted across the pavement. Birdie scrambled up first, boots clanging against the metal. She swung a leg over and dropped back into the cul-de-sac. The fence had bent impossibly, folding inward. She hit the ground hard, staring in disbelief at the street she thought she'd seen beyond. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." Alma tried another side, but each time they reached the edge, the world looped back on itself. Every street, every turn, every desperate sprint brought them right back to the same circle. The trick-or-treater hadn't moved, but his bag had opened again. The wrappers spilled farther now, a tide spreading across the pavement, curling toward them like searching fingers. Jaden stumbled back, voice raw. "We're not in skeleton rest anymore." The bag crumpled louder, the sound splitting the night. Wrappers tearing, wrappers chewing, wrappers swallowing. And then, knock, knock, knock. The sound didn't come from the figure. It came from behind them. From the doors of the dark houses that lined the cul-de-sac. Every door knocking in unison. The cul-de-sac throbbed with sound. Knock, knock, knock. Every door, every house, all in perfect rhythm, pounding through the night like a heartbeat. The teens spun in circles, their shadows jerking under the weak street lamp. Alma clutched Jaden's arm so tightly her nails dug into his skin. Birdie pressed her palms against her ears, but the sound burrowed straight through. Noah staggered forward, voice cracking. "What the hell do you want from us?" The trick-or-treater didn't answer. He only stood, bag yawning wider, the wrappers spilling like tongues across the pavement, reaching. The knocking grew louder, doors rattled on their hinges as if something inside wanted out. Jaden's voice broke the air, hollow with terror. "If a door opens..." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Birdie's Twizzler dropped from her trembling fingers, landing among the wrappers. The sound it made, just a faint crinkle, was swallowed instantly into the chorus of knocking. Knock, knock, knock. The sound pressed against their chests, their skulls, their teeth. It was everywhere, inescapable. Alma whispered, "It's not just him. It's the houses, the whole town. The trick-or-treater tilted his head, slowly, patiently, and the knocking stopped. The silence was worse, until, with the softness of a whisper through candy wrappers, the first door began to open. The door on the nearest house creaked wide, spilling nothing but black into the cul-de-sac. No light, no warmth, just hollow, endless dark. The trick-or-treater lifted his bag higher, as if offering it toward the open doorway. The wrappers hissed louder, slithering across the pavement, reaching for the teen's feet. Birdie yanked Alma back. "Don't let it touch you. Don't let..." From the darkness of the doorway, something stepped out. It looked like a child at first, short, thin, wearing a plastic pumpkin mask cracked down the center, but its body moved wrong, jerking like a puppet. And when the mask tilted, the face beneath wasn't human, just a nest of candy wrappers stuffed into the shape of a mouth, gnashing and chewing without end. Alma screamed. Jaden stumbled, clutching at his ankle where a wrapper curled like a snake. The creature lurched forward, its candy-stuffed mouth snapping, and the trick-or-treater tilted his head in silent approval. Another door creaked open, then another. Figures stepped out one by one, ghost costumes, skeleton masks, clown paint, each face nothing but rotting candy and wrappers crammed into a grotesque shape, all chewing, all hungry. The cul-de-sac was filling. The trick-or-treater lowered his bag as if satisfied. The wrappers spilled in rivers now, twining around the teen's shoes, crawling higher, pulling them toward the waiting dark. Birdie shrieked, kicking free, her voice raw. "We're not making it out." Jaden's eyes locked on the original figure towering in the center, hollow eyes burning, his voice cracked with realization. "It's not about giving him candy, it's about feeding him us." The wrappers surged. The cul-de-sac was alive now. Doors yawned open, spilling black, and from each came those puppet-like figures in broken masks and smeared makeup, their faces nothing but rotting candy and chewing wrappers. The trick-or-treater stood at the center, unmoving, his bag stretched wider than ever, darkness spilling from it in ribbons that slithered across the ground. The wrappers moved like living things, knotting into ropes, twining around the teen's legs. Alma shrieked, kicking free, her shoe tearing as the wrappers hissed against her skin. "They're everywhere." Birdie yanked her hat off and hurled it at one of the creatures, its pumpkin mask shattering as the thing toppled, only for 3 more to lurch forward out of the dark. Noah roared, swinging his pillowcase like a mace, smacking one across the jaw. Candy wrappers burst out, scattering across the pavement like confetti. For a second, he grinned. "See, they bleed sugar." But then the wrappers twitched, rose up again, and crawled back into the puppet's hollow face. The thing stood, jaws chewing louder than before. Jaden, pale and still raw from being dragged earlier, pointed with a trembling hand at the trick-or-treater. "We're wasting time. It's not them, it's him." All at once, the bag tilted toward them. The wrappers surged in a wave, sweeping across the pavement like a tide of teeth. Birdie screamed. Alma grabbed Jaden's arm. Noah swung until his hands were raw. But the wrappers coiled higher, binding wrists, ankles, throats, dragging them closer to the yawning black bag. The trick-or-treater finally moved, one step forward, slow, certain. His hollow eyes locked on them, and for the first time, they all understood. This wasn't a monster knocking for candy. This was Halloween itself, hungry, eternal. And it had come to feed. The wrappers writhed higher, binding like snakes, pulling at limbs, dragging the teens inch by inch toward the gaping black of the trick-or-treater's bag. Alma screamed, thrashing, but her legs were pinned. Birdie clawed at the pavement, her fingernails splitting. Jaden kicked, still raw from the first attack, his breath breaking in gasps. Noah stopped struggling. His face, pale beneath the broken vampire fangs, went strangely calm, his eyes locked on the trick-or-treater's hollow gaze. "It wants one of us," he rasped. "That's all it's ever wanted." Birdie's head snapped up. "No, don't you dare." But Noah tore free of her grip, ripping his arm from the wrappers just long enough to stagger forward. His pillowcase of candy slipped from his hand, forgotten. He faced the trick-or-treater, chest heaving, voice hoarse. "Take me. You want a soul? You want a body? Fine, leave them alone." The bag tilted toward him. The wrappers surged, coiling around his waist, dragging him to the edge. The darkness inside pulsed, yawning wider, swallowing the night. Birdie shrieked, slamming against the tide of wrappers. "Noah, don't you dare! You don't get to decide for all of us." Alma's sob broke into fury. "We stick together, damn it." Jaden, trembling, grabbed Noah's arm with every ounce of strength left. His voice cracked, but it rang clear. "We don't feed him. Not one of us." For a moment, the wrappers hesitated, their pull faltering, as if the unity itself weakened the curse. The trick-or-treater tilted his head, silent, watching. The bag remained open, hunger spilling from its seams. But Noah was still half swallowed, his body teetering over the edge of the void. Noah's body teetered at the edge of the bag, wrappers pulling him down, his scream lost in the endless crumpling roar. Birdie's fury snapped like a whip. "No!" She threw herself against the tide, clawing at his arm. "You don't get to go out like this. We all burn together or not at all." Alma braced her weight, grabbing Noah's other side. "We're not food. Not for him. Not for this town." Jaden's voice, low but steady, cut through the chaos. "We don't feed him. Ever." The words landed like an anchor in the storm. For a heartbeat, the wrappers faltered. The pulling stopped. The sound of crumpling candy dipped, as if the hunger itself recoiled from their unity. The trick-or-treater tilted his head, hollow eyes narrowing. Birdie spat into the void, her chest heaving. "You hear me? You don't get us. You don't get any of us." The bag shuddered, its edges twitching like torn fabric, seams straining against some invisible force. The wrappers writhed angrily, tightening once more, yet not as strong. Noah collapsed back into their arms, gasping, his skin sticky and raw. The trick-or-treater lowered his bag, slow, deliberate. He didn't retreat. He only stood there, silent, as if watching. And then, without a sound, the doors of every house slammed shut in unison. The cul-de-sac went dead quiet. Jaden whispered, his voice shaking. "We hurt him." But Birdie's eyes stayed locked on the figure. "No, we pissed him off." The cul-de-sac was still. The doors had slammed shut. The rappers hissed faintly, then went still, retreating across the pavement like water rolling back to sea. Birdie collapsed to her knees, gasping. It stopped. Oh my God, it actually stopped. Alma clutched Noah's arm, tears streaking her painted skeleton face. We hurt him. Jaden was right. We can fight back. Noah laughed, ragged and hollow, but for the first time it wasn't bravado. It was relief. We didn't die. We actually didn't die. Jaden leaned against the fence, chest heaving, his burned skin sticky with candy residue. His eyes stayed locked on the figure. Don't believe it. He's not done. The trick-or-treater stood in the center, silent, unmoving. His bag hung at his side, slack as if drained. For a heartbeat, for one fragile moment, it seemed like they had broken him. Birdie's trembling hand found Alma's. We did it. We beat him. Alma squeezed back, her voice small but certain. Together. The silence stretched. And then the trick-or-treater's head snapped upright. The bag ripped open wider than before, seams splitting, darkness pouring out in rivers. The rappers shrieked like 1,000 mouths tearing at once. The houses groaned, their frames bending inward. Windows cracked. Jack-o'-lanterns split down the middle, spilling black rot. The very pavement trembled, splitting like a wound. Jaden's voice broke in horror. No, this is what he wanted. The trick-or-treater finally moved, both hands gripping the bag, raising it like an altar, and the sky above Skeleton Rest split into black. The sky above Skeleton Rest split open. Black poured through the crack like ink, spilling across glass, swallowing the stars. The moon vanished, and in its place loomed a vast hollow shape, its surface writhing with candy wrappers gnashing like teeth. The trick-or-treater raised his bag high, arms jerking like a marionette, and the wrappers screamed. The sound was deafening, 1,000 crumpling voices tearing through the night. The houses lining the cul-de-sac groaned and buckled inward, their doors snapping open, vomiting out more puppet children, their faces hollowed with candy-stuffed mouths. They lurched forward in jerks and spasms, dozens of them, chewing. Birdie staggered back, voice hoarse. This isn't real. This can't be real. Alma grabbed her hand, screaming, "Run!" But there was nowhere to run. Every street folded back into itself. The town was a loop, a trap, a circle closing tighter and tighter. Noah swung his fists, raw and bleeding, knocking one of the candy things down. It shattered like brittle sugar glass, but 3 more replaced it, wrappers spilling from their jaws. Jaden's eyes went wide, his voice a rasp. It's not just him. It's Halloween. He's the core, the night itself feeding through him. The trick-or-treater lowered the bag, pointing it straight at them. The wrappers surged, flooding the pavement, coiling up their legs, binding wrists, throats, mouths. The air reeked of rot and sugar, thick enough to choke. The black sky pulsed once, twice, like a vast heartbeat above them. And then the world began to cave inward. The sky pulsed, the world caving inward, wrappers binding tighter. The trick-or-treater loomed over them, a hollow god, his bag yawning wide enough to swallow the whole cul-de-sac. Birdie's voice tore free, raw and furious. We don't break. We don't feed you. She slammed her boot down. crushing the wrappers underfoot even as they tore at her skin. Alma gripped her hand, pulling her close. Together, always. Noah, blood streaming down his face, bared his teeth. "You'll choke on me before I give in." Jaden's voice rose, steady despite the fear strangling it. "We are not yours. Not tonight, not ever." Their words hit like sparks in the dark. For a heartbeat, the wrappers faltered, writhing back as if the unity seared them. The trick-or-treater's head jerked violently, his bag shuddering. The cul-de-sac cracked open beneath them, the pavement splitting wide. Wrappers spilled like a tidal wave, surging upward, shrieking. The teens locked hands, bracing, voices breaking as one. "We aren't yours." Light flared between them, not holy, not pure, but human. Stubborn, furious defiance. The wrapper shrieked, curling back, burning in the glow. The bag convulsed, tearing at the seams, black smoke spewing as the trick-or-treater staggered. For the first time, he stepped back. The sky cracked again, and then, with a sound like every wrapper in the world crumpling at once, the bag imploded. The darkness snapped inward, pulling the puppet children, the houses, the cul-de-sac itself into nothing. Silence. The teens collapsed on cracked asphalt. The night was still, the houses gone, the street gone. Only the four of them remained, breathing, shaking, alive. Birdie whispered, "Did we win?" No one answered. From the distance, carried on the cold October wind, came a faint, hollow sound. Knock, knock, knock. Epilogue. The first pale light of dawn bled across Skeleton Rest. The town looked the same, houses lined in neat rows, porches swept clean, jack-o'-lanterns sagging with the night's rot. But for Birdie, Alma, Noah, and Jaden, nothing was the same. They limped down Elmbridge Street, their costumes torn, skin raw with burns that looked like candy had melted into their flesh. Their pillowcases were gone, their laughter hollow. Alma whispered, "We made it. We're still here." Noah didn't answer. His eyes stayed on every porch, every darkened window, waiting for the sound. Birdie forced a laugh, sharp and bitter. "Next year, I'm staying in." Jaden stopped walking, his eyes fixed on a single house, its porch light still glowing in the gray dawn. He pointed with a shaking hand. On the porch sat an orange candy bag. Empty. Waiting. The wind carried faintly through the quiet streets, so soft it could almost be mist. Knock, knock, knock.